Hey guys, it's Tasty Tacos here. I wanted to take you through my League Start build for PoE 0.4. This is a Lightning Spear Trinity Frenzy Charge stacking Tactician, which sounds super weird, but hopefully it's all going to make sense when I go through it. This is a build that I came up with at the end of last league, and thankfully it hasn't really been affected by the patch notes, so it should be working just fine in 0.4. That having been said, if you want to play Druid and you want to play Bears and stuff like that, this is not going to really be for you. This is more of a kind of classic map blaster. But so the way that the build works is, and my character here is, I've dropped it down, this is my main character, I've dropped it down from 97 to 76. The way the build works is we use the right where we want them, ascendancy passive, to build Pin with projectiles together with the Eroding Chains notable. What the Eroding Chains notable basically does is it says break 50% of armor on pinning an enemy. And for anyone that's played Tactician, you'll know that the pin happens pretty much immediately. It's one projectile shot with even a minimal amount of damage will pin normal enemies. And the way that break armor is calculated is it kind of says, okay, for a normal enemy, this is the amount of armor, this is 50% of it, and it gets broken. But, and I don't know if this is an oversight from GGG, if we look at this break text, it says players break 3 times armor against normal monsters and 2 times against magic monsters. So that number becomes tripled or doubled, and then it means that the minute that you pin an enemy, they immediately have their armor broken. So we use this, it means you're breaking armor all the time against loads of normal enemies, and we use this in a couple of ways. The first way that we use it is for the armor break support gem. It's for the armor explosion gem. So this means that every time you hit a normal enemy, you're going to be triggering an explosion, which is equal to I believe it's 30% of your normal hit damage, which is pretty good. I mean, if you look at the damage on Lightning Spear, 19,000, and you add a third of the default attack numbers that you see above, it's fairly significant explode, and it's nice to have explode on things. But the other good part of this is it says converts 100% of physical damage to fire damage. So if our Lightning Spear is doing all lightning damage, and then the armor explosion is doing all fire damage, we've got 2 parts of our Trinity right there for free. And then the third part of the Trinity comes from, which has become quite popular these days, putting in Bitter on Herald of Thunder together with a cold attunement. Herald of Thunder is getting nerfed, but it isn't really a big part of the damage in this build. All we need it to do is hit enemies with cold damage so that we can get that Trinity stacking. And as you see, that works just fine. It works very nicely. And then the last thing we do with this armor break mechanic is we allocate resonance, and resonance says gain frenzy charges instead of endurance charges. And you noticed on our skills we had the armor break support gem there, which says 20% chance to gain an endurance charge when supporting skills fully break armor. So it's only 20%, but the thing is, mob packs tend to have plenty of mobs in them, and as you'll see, the range for Lightning Spear is very, very high. It very easily covers like large distances, so it's very easy to generate charges. But we combine that also with this kind of slightly niche unique called Serpent's Egg, which says gain an additional charge when you gain a charge, and that means that every time we gain a charge, we gain 2. And of course, as you saw on the passive tree, we're pathing past some good frenzy charge nodes here that also give additional benefits for consuming frenzy charges, which is great because we're consuming frenzy charges all the time. For the rest of the tree, you take kind of the standard stuff. There's a really nice node right here, actually, in the 5% increased movement speed if you pinned an enemy recently, and especially since we're losing our movement speed, our 60% movement speed boots, getting movement speed wherever we can is going to be great. So there's movement speed there. There's a little bit of movement speed here, I think, as well, which you can spec into later and so on. But enough of this. Let's jump into a map. Let's let's just take... I've got some pretty standard... let's do Bloodwood. I've got some pretty standard sort of 6 mod maps here. Just take this one. This has been attempted, so I can't put a breach on it, but you'll get an idea for what the mapping looks like anyway. Onto the rower. And just say, I've completely forgot to mention this, but why do we even have frenzy charges? It's because the lightning spear becomes way better with frenzy charges. It bounces off walls, it splits loads more times. As you can see, Trinity's stacking up well. Oh yeah, of course, can't miss that Exalted Orb at this stage in the league. Trinity stacks up no problem. We've got 4 frenzy charges. The AoE is fantastic. And as you can see, some of the damage on the rare monsters isn't fantastic at this stage, but this is just a sort of entry-level version anyway, so I'm okay with that. The single target damage is definitely the biggest problem of the build right now. It has a lot of on-kill effects. The consuming frenzy charges is kind of like an on-kill effect because you have to break loads of things armor. It really scales off of having loads of mobs. So if you're thinking about doing like Deli, if you want to do Breach, you want to just absolutely murder massive packs of mobs, then this is a great build. But if you want to do bossing, this is really not the one. Don't play this build for bossing. It's not designed for that at all. One of the nice things about Lightning Spear is when it's frenzy charged and powered, it bounces. So those lightning spears can bounce back and hit the enemy multiple times. Nothing there. I also have the barrage, which is great. So if I hit a rare monster and it's being a big problem for me, then I can empower that barrage and I can throw loads of times like that, which is kind of nice. Yeah, I took a hit there, but the what is it, the Ghost Dance procced, protected me a bit, which is nice. Alright, that's the Abyss done, no worries. Oh, a bit more. But yeah, if Abyss farming's the way, then that's also works really well on this build because they're all standing really near each other, so they get absolutely blown up by the armor explosions, as well as the Herald of Thunder AoE and all of that other good stuff. Well, where's the boss? I want to show the boss because the biggest problem I have been having on this build is the single target. And single target doesn't really become a problem when you scale it because you can get so much damage in this game. Okay, come side. Yeah, I'm using that other little spear thing here to zap him. I can't remember, Tempest Spear, is that what it's called? Oh, I got a frenzy charge there, that's cool. So, single target's okay. I mean, it's really nothing to write home about, but it does the job, and you can get through maps comfortably. So that's all you really want at this stage if your plan is to do breach farming and that kind of stuff. Okay. So in terms of the itemization on this build, we're doing an evasion energy shield build, and this is all. I mean, all of the rare. Let's just say the rare helmet, body armor, boots, belt, and gloves all cost me 1 exalted on trade. Maybe because we're late in the trade and it may be hard to get. You know, this is a double resistance body armor, and maybe somebody's failed crafting project or something, but I think this is fairly reasonable for where this character would be. Got myself some beautiful move speed boots there with tier 7 evasion rating, and similarly on the gloves, everybody loves having maximum mana on their gloves. But what have I done to these items to make them good? As you can see, there are actually some very good there are some very good, what are they called, desecrated mods that you can force because they're tagged to Ulaman or Kurgal or whatever it is. And one of them that's very, very good is 8-12% increased skill speed if you've consumed a frenzy charge recently. That's super powerful. So we can buy any crappy pair of gloves and whack that on as a suffix. And the other really good one is the increased magnitude of shock if you've consumed a frenzy charge recently. Also very easily forceable, very cheap. but super powerful. I mean, the numbers are really high, right? 20 to 30% increased magnitude of shot. I mean, that's the sort of number that you get on a notable on the tree, and you basically get it for free. Like, it's very unlikely that you're gonna have you're gonna have 3 desired mods on a ring at this point in time. So you can buy something with 2 prefixes off trade, and then get that going. In terms of, so then I have the helmet, obviously, which is a energy shield helmet because of this node here, subterfuge mask, which gives you evasion rating per energy shield and helmet, which is great. So it means you can use an energy shield helmet to give yourself a bit extra defenses. And then of course, on the Serpent's Egg, I'm allocating Eroding Chains because I don't really want a path there. But in the sort of late game version of the build, which I'll put a link to as well, you actually allocate this dirty node, the Frenzied Bear, which says 30% increased damage and 10% increased skill speed if you've consumed a Frenzy Charge recently, which is so powerful. I mean, it's kind of like Acceleration, which has been a super, super popular node, but just straight better. I mean, it's got better damage than any of the damage nodes, and the skill speed and the strength. So that becomes what we allocate later. And then when we get our From Nothing, it's worth saying, you get a From Nothing and then you do Dance with Death, so you can allocate in radius here. And then you get that acceleration anyway. You get the Roll and Strike, which is crazy powerful as well. And you get the Precise Point, which is crazy powerful. On the spear itself, so this spear is completely essence crafted. I found a spear that had T3. It was a magic spear that had T3 increased physical off of trade. I then essenced, I can't remember the name of the essence to put on the T3 physical damage on there secondarily. I then turned the suffix that was on there previously, which doesn't matter. I used a Dextral Crystallization to flip that into damage as extra lightning, slapped on 3 useless suffixes, and then did put on Onslaught, Perfect Essence of Battle, and you can force this increased attack speed and companion in your presence as the last mod. And just by kind of juggling those, you've got to make sure that you have the Desecrate suffixes on, whichever that omen's called. But just by juggling those, you can ensure that you get all 3 regardless of what your suffixes are to start with, so that's no problem. So this was quite a cheap spear to make, but it's decent, it's good. Now obviously we're losing this +4 level of attack skills, it's going to be +3, but I have a level 19 lightning spear, so I haven't been lying to anyone. This is realistic, this is going to be realistic to what it's going to be. In terms of the other stuff, what's kind of nice, and then I haven't talked about the guiding palm of the mind, so this is just damage. This is literally just damage. You could put a lot of things in your offhand in this build, but none of the scepters do anything for you unless they're damage scepters. I mean, I think there's Guiding Palm of the Mind. You've got the other palm that gives you cold damage, and then when you get to late game, you take the I can't remember the name of it, something Flame or Grasp or whatever, which is the gain 60% of damage as extra fire damage, and that becomes your sort of end game offhand item, and you can corrupt that up to like 70% damage as extra fire damage as well, which is pretty good. And this isn't that expensive, and I would probably say this is the most expensive item in the build at this stage, but my thinking is that you can if you have gotten to tier 15s and you want to do this transition, this is kind of a requirement for the transition, this is kind of a requirement for the transition, and then of course with the Anoint, and then getting yourself a level 19 sort of 5 socket lightning spear. And if you can get those 3 things, you're good to go. Is there anything else worth talking about? No, I mean, in terms of defenses, what's nice about Tactician is we can put all of these buffs on. So we can have Wind Dancer, we can have Ghost Dance, as well as obviously all the other stuff we need, the Combat Frenzy, the Trinity, the Rower, Herald of Thunder. There's absolutely no worries. As well as that the Purity of Lightning is kind of like really helps. I mean, 40% extra lightning resistance, just get a tier 2 lightning res mod for free. Cool, I'll take it. That's nice, and it makes it easier to get resistances on your gear as well. I think that's about it. I think I've gone through everything. So let me have a quick look. Is there anything here that I've missed? No, there's a late game version of this build which is kind of the same, to be honest. Like it's super powerful, but anyone that's played attack builds knows that if you just get lots of tier 1 damage modifiers on all of your gear, get a better spear, get better rings, get better gloves, get a headhunter, and at some point you can also swap out the serpent's egg, although for a +3 proj, although I quite like the serpent's egg, so maybe keep it. We'll have to see how it goes, but yeah, that's kind of the plan. Yeah, anyway, take care guys, see you later.